reacted to this. I apologise to those of you online. We will have some observers, so hopefully those of you online can pick up the essence of what we're doing, and we can, of course, take questions from you. And so we're going to play Dragon's Den. So I have, well, when I first wrote this, this was a complete fantasy product. I now believe products along these lines actually exist. So this is the product brief. Just one page of, or you can colour actually. There's a product briefer. We have here two entrepreneurs who are going to pitch this product, and they're going to pitch the features, the stories, the things we want the product to do, and we're going to put some value on that. So to do that, I need 3 or 4 dragons over here. So I need 3 or maybe 4 volunteers. I appreciate it's a small group, so let's do it with 3. Can I have 3 volunteers, please? Since my card's gone. Yeah, don't worry. You can't really do anything wrong in this exercise. You've all seen the TV show, haven't you? Dragon's Den. Yeah. Come on, Derek. We need 1 more person and 4 if you're enthusiastic.
Obviously, it's possible not to volunteer when there's only.
Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, so we're going to start with our entrepreneurs pitching their product to you, and then I'm going to get you to vote on value on it. As you vote on it, I'm going to score the cards up. We'll get an idea of where the value is, and we'll have some discussions as we go along. And by the way, I should say, what I normally do is these cards cost, there's like 100 odd cards in here, so they cost. But I'll give 1 pack away tonight. So if you wander over to that URL before we're finished and stick a name in, somebody can get a pack of cards. And you can buy them from Agile Stationery. But sales pitch over. Entrepreneurs, would you like to introduce your product?
Yeah. Okay, so it's a Fitbit. Well, it's a Fit Pet. So it's like a Fitbit that we have for humans for pets. And the key thing is it monitors movement, movement history, pet activity, time spent exercising, when it's stationary, i.e. sleeping or resting. You can do it for lots of things. First of all, you can do it to keep a track of how far your dog walks. You can validate the dog walking service. So rather, you can see how far the dog walker takes, where they go, etc. And the other thing is, obviously, over time, you can track it's one measure to track the pet's health. So if it's a dog, then obviously as the dog ages, it wants to walk less. So you can link it to health. And my colleague will cover a few other issues.
So just extending that narrative a bit further, you've also got monitoring the diet of the dog, its food consumption. As we know, we've got some dogs and other cats that maybe get a bit too big and have done over the pandemic when people didn't exercise so much. So this is prompting them to get exercising a bit more, but not only just the pet, but the owner as well. And we view that not only is it for the pet to exercise, but could also prompt the owner to exercise more, get a bit more active, and maybe be a bit smarter with their exercising. If before work, after work, they see that the dog's been pacing around, or another animal, not exclusively dogs, have been pacing around, then there's not so much emphasis and requirement to then go out and exercise. Or maybe if it hasn't, it's been stuck indoors all day because it's raining, then there's impotence and direction to then get up and both the owner to exercise more and the pet also to exercise more.
I think you've covered that really well. And on both of those two stories we've outlined, obviously with cats and dogs, they might cover long distances walking, but it can be an indication of psychological trauma, you know, pacing up and down. So you see in a lion's cage, a lion pacing up and down, you get that with dogs and cats as well. So actually, not only do you have a validation of how far the pet has walked, but whether it's in a normal pattern, whether it's in on a normal walk, or whether it's pacing.
Dragons, do you understand the product? Do you have any questions about the product as a whole?
Probably not.
Can we ask questions about?
Yeah, you can ask questions.
Food, how are you going to measure food consumption? Because it's a collar. How does this device interface to food consumption that was mentioned?
But it's less to do with food consumption, more if the pet has been exercising less. Like with a car, you don't wait until it's empty, until you fill it up. You'll have a good idea if there's enough to run the vehicle. Similarly, with you with a pet that, you know, if you overfeed it, then become unhealthy. Similarly, if you underfeed it. But if there's a balance between exercise and food that you're providing it as the owner, that's a responsibility, then you'll be able to have that balance of harmony there. As we market the product, it's for the owners of care.
Well, walking is a good example of food consumption because obviously if a dog overeats, it walks less. And the other thing is movement. So for instance, smaller pets like cats, they have a very tiny appetite and you can monitor how often they go to the food bowl because cats have a habit of eating very little amounts at a time. And you can see whether that pattern changes. So a typical cat might go to their food bowl 5 or 6 times in a day. What's normal for that cat? Some cats only feed twice a day. And you can see whether the difference is in behaviour.
Yeah, I was going to ask you talked about normal behaviour. So do you have a database that I can look up what normal behaviour might be?
Yeah, you struck me on the
I think
spot.
it's one of those things they need to build as part of the product. They're going to collect all the data from all
yeah,
these animals and they'll have a big data query, or, you know,
Yeah.
collect it all.
Yeah,
So it's similar with AI, I suppose. You know, on the first, it learns over time.
Okay.
If you take a small sample,
Yeah.
then the bigger the sample.
well, we're both hoping that there'll be a discount if you share your data with other owners.
You talk about humans getting fit. So are you going to have an interface to human Fitbit, things like that?
I would say probably not with a human Fitbit. Just thinking from a security angle, you would want to keep separations of data separate from a human and animal. But having an aggregator, something like social media platforms, to then surface that data, something like Palantir, who would then be able to aggregate and model.
So you can take your dog to virtual.
Maybe in the virtual world eventually.
Version 1 available in Soldeck. Thank you.
At the moment, not yet.
How much are you gonna charge people for this version 1?
At the beginning, it's just going to be the fixed cost. We're still working on a bit of market research to see exactly what the prices are and then find an appropriate sweet spot.
When you say available now, does that mean if I wanted to phone your website, go on your website, it would actually tell me that I could get a version 1 coming through the post, and I could stick it on a dog's neck tomorrow and Bob your uncle.
Yeah, Bob was my uncle once, but no. Suffice it to say, like I said, we're going to do our market research before actually putting a product out there on price, as was alluded in the first brief. There have since been products like this launched. So reviewing success factors and the good feedback that those vendors get will then begin to baseline our product price on that.
So, so you talk about a basic online service. So what do I get from my basic online service?
The basic online service would just be your dog's movement tracking in terms of a metric measurement.
Maybe now's a good time to cut to the stories, and we'll see that this, because I want to build this product. So they've got a bunch of stories, features, functionality they want to pitch at you and get your take on the value of these items. Okay.
Okay.
So do we have a first story to pitch?
These are the stories. Yeah, so okay, so let's go through the stories one by one.
We'll do one story and then we'll vote on it, and then we'll do the next story.
Yeah. The dog walking service is often through word of mouth. And what you don't know in a dog walking service is your pet being walked with other pets? Is it on its own? How far it walks? It's not so much because you normally, a dog walking service, you take on trust. It's still useful to know how far your dog has walked, because if you take it for a walk, you don't want to wear it out later on. So, for instance, if you have a dog walking service, shall we say every other day, you at least you need to have some sort of metrics to give you an idea what a healthy amount of walking is. And if you're sharing the data with other users, if you're buying a premium product, you can see how your dog compares with all the other breeds of dogs similarly. And you can then give them an optimal amount of walking yourself, you know, evening and night. And so it's really a case of not checking up on what the dog walking service does, but more a case of having a quantifiable measure for optimum health for your dog.
Any questions?
So a dog walking service.
So what is optimal? Come back again. You got normal. What is optimal? How far should I walk my dog?
Well, I mean, for instance, if you have breeds like huskies, they love to walk, you know, maybe 10 kilometres plus. If you've got a very small dog like that,
So do you have a database with this in?
Oh, yes, yeah, of course we. Yeah.
Okay.
You could put the breed in, the age, and
Yeah.
it'll tell you like a scale of, is it doing enough?
Yeah, yeah.
Too much?
Yeah. So you want obviously not only that, but the breed, the age, the gender, okay, what kind of health it's in. If it's, for instance, has got something like arthritis, you'd expect it to do a very minimal amount of walking. It depends what the vet says. If the dog is pregnant, you wouldn't expect it to get dragged around for kilometres.
I was curious about the sensors, and because you've got a accelerometer in there, I'm assuming, to do the steps. Movement direction, I didn't quite get that, and then the temperature. Is that the ambient temperature or the skin temperature? The dog trying to measure that.
Do you want to answer it? Well, both, about both.
Yeah. In terms of this, it would just be the sort of direct contact skin temperature of the animal without being invasive or introducing risk, etc.
Yeah, so for instance, if the breed is a Podenco, which comes from North Africa or Spain or wherever, you'd expect them to be well adjusted to slightly warmer temperatures than other dogs that might be husky type and are very hairy.
I think the skin temperature is going to be different. Like watch manufacturers struggle with that. The way to get it is you need a pretty strong sensor that does your heart rate as well, and then they can just about do it. So yeah, we can scale it. But yeah, to go through the fur and get the skin temperature is going to be the ambient temperature is quite easy.
So the feature you're pitching right now is dog walking validation and distance dog walked.
Yeah,
So I want you to think about how valuable that feature is. Your baseline is this story, which is hydration level, measuring the pet's hydration level. And this has got a nominal value of 10,000 BCS dollars. So if you think this feature they're pitching is worth exactly the same as knowing the hydration level, you're going to vote 10,000. You're going to pull out the 10,000 card.
Value in what sense? Value to the customer or sales or?
Just, how valuable is this feature compared to that one? If that one is worth 10,000, how valuable? What value are you on this one?
Version 1 or all the way up to version 5?
The versions may well change. That's a roadmap and it changes.
So the valuation of the business, let's say up to this point. So up to the point.
So how much would we invest?
Yeah, how much would you invest? How much money are you prepared to put into the business to see this feature happen? We think 10,000 BCS dollars will get us hydration level. So that's we're lost it now, the 10,000 card. But the dog walking validation service, if you think it is 10 times as valuable, then pull out the 100,000 card. If you think, you know what, it's only worth half that much, pull out the 5,000 card. Okay, so very similar to planning poker, but we're voting on the value here, how much you're prepared to invest to get this feature built. Okay.
Sorry, just to. This is just a validation of the dog walking service. We're saying that's worth more than, or we're asked whether we think that's worth more than this.
Yeah.
And we're to accept that this the hydration level of the dog is worth 10,000 units.
Yes. So if the hydration level is worth 10,000 BCS dollars, is this feature worth the same as the hydration level? Is it worth more? Is it worth less? Yeah.
Okay, what do we do now then? Okay,
So choose a card in
choose
secret,
a card.
which reflects how much your opinion of whether this feature is brilliant, awful, valueless, you know, the killer feature. They'll have people rushing out to buy this.
I suppose it's a case of risk and reward. So do you see it as worth financial risk, putting the money in versus the reward it will yield as a product delivered?
I mean, unless I'm missing something, I mean, what the hell would I want to know the bloody hydration level of my dog?
Because you care.
Whereas I can see the value of checking whether the dog's walking service is actually taking the dog, because you keep reading about these people that just tie the dog up to the nearest pole and then 2 hours later deliver it. Okay, so I can see a point in that, but the hydration level, unless I'm a vet, I couldn't give a bugger. So, I mean, that's where I'm trying to get some kind of.
No, I can completely see why you think hydration level ain't worth nothing. So that could be 10,000 pence there.
Yeah.
On the other hand, you know.
But what I'm saying is, if that's worth 10,000, then the validation is worth at least 10 times that.
There's a
Maybe
million.
100.
I don't want to upset you. Hydration level of a human being is virtually impossible to measure. You know, so for instance, we have a homeostatic system with the kidneys and that try and keep it within the level. And we know that older people don't drink a lot and often slightly dehydrated, but actually measure it, whether someone's dehydrated.
Aren't you? The question is not, can the technology do this? The question is not, how would we do it? The question is, if you can offer that hydration level, how much do people pay for it? How much is it worth out there in the market?
Yeah.
How much do people want this? You know, it could be like hydration. You may be exactly right, but you know what? If hydration level was the $1 million feature, then maybe out there somewhere there's an academic paper, and there's a guy in Rio de Janeiro University who's worked out how to do it, and all we need to do is commercialize him. So we're not starting from the engineering point of view. You're thinking about your customers, the business first. that thing we keep coming back to, business value. So if we're saying hydration level, and you know, as much as I can agree the hydration level might be worth less, I could also imagine that knowing that your pet wasn't being overworked and was losing its hydration, I could imagine for a vet knowing the historical hydration levels. I could imagine, and I'm not an expert, it's fantastic. Yeah. I can imagine scenarios where it's worthless. I can imagine stories where it's worthwhile. But right now, I don't want to worry about, I want to, you know, is it what people pay for? Is this where we see value? So dragons, yeah, there's no right or wrong answers here. Have you chosen a card?
Yes.
You ready? Derek, ready?
Yeah.
Ready? 3, 2, 1, show me.
Oh, okay.
Okay, 50,000, 100,000, 50,000. We call it 80,000, oh, 70,
Yeah,
70,000?
75,000.
75,000. Well, I should say 200,000 divided by 3 is 70,000.
One online bid at 100,000.
100,000. Okay, well, we'll accept that. So that's a total of 300,000 divided by 4, which still sounds like about 73,000. But okay, so this is I'll put in 73,000 PCS dollars. Okay, can we have the next feature, please?
Okay, do you want me to live in it?
Yeah.
So the next one that we're proposing is movement alarm through geofencing, which makes use of real-time GPS signaling to put areas of permitted movement for the dog, and then alarms as and when they stray close to or over that line.
So this is not a technical exercise, so I've got so many technical questions.
We don't worry about, you know, technology today, you know, especially AI, anything's possible. The question is, what should we build? What does the market want? What will sell?
So if my dog goes into one of these areas, if I get told about it,
Yes,
and then I have to rush and do something about it.
yes. At the moment, the current sort of way that this works is with RFID, and when the dog gets close to a borderline or a point of demarcation, there's a shock administered. So this is more of a humane approach.
You're not going
No, so there's no shock administered, it's purely for GPS tracking and all.
to.
A shock for the owner.
Is there an option to do the shopping if I'm too far away and I'm
Within this proposal, no.
I think that was, forget the shocking, I think it's a bit cruel.
I think it's
The owner will
feature, wouldn't it?
Yes.
It's a version of the
Just a speaker, it's an audio thing, the dog's trained to know that when that goes off, go back.
So if you want, you can jot that down as another feature and play it back to them in a few minutes.
Yeah.
Little buzzer.
Have a look.
So we're assuming it's a GPS, so using like proper GPS, precise GPS, and it doesn't do what GPS does, where it kind of does misses, and so it can be very accurate GPS. And otherwise, if it goes off as it does by a few meters, then the dog's gonna be here, the alarm goes off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's like that. The you know, dogs, and I think legally speaking, cats are free spirits.
Yeah.
They'll be moving about constantly. Generally speaking, and if they're wandering, you're going to have a demarcation close to where, you know, let's say if it's close to a railway track, a little way before the railway track.
Yeah,
So a sensible deployment.
how accurate, but I'm assuming that the GPS sensor is very accurate, basically. And so you're gonna geofence where it's allowed, and then you can set what the action if it goes close to or on that
Yes.
fence, essentially, right? Okay.
So thinking about it, you can then have, like we have in the security domain which I work in, which is have different levels of severity of alarm. So close to, very close to, at, and then over the point. So set multiple metrics on that alarm.
This sounds like a pain, because that means I can't just apologise to my neighbours when it gets away, I've got to actually do something.
You can call a dog walker.
Yes.
Oh, so you're gonna offer a service to go and catch my dog?
Ah,
Because I'm in this busy meeting and I can't.
Well, that's an added
Yes.
functionality.
yeah, so, you know,
And you see,
Drone
it could avoid a lot of legal penalties, because in theory, if your dog causes an accident on the road, you're liable. The other thing is, if your dog worries sheep, you're liable, so it can, by paying for that extra service.
Can I just have my dog put down? It seems a lot simpler.
So, let me just pause here, let me just point out, what they call ideation is going on here. So we've got a basic feature, and the questions that are coming off the dragons here is saying, oh, can we taser a dog? Can we put a buzzer on? What we're going to about stopping the dog? Do I need to brush over it? So actually, it's a whole bunch of product ideas coming up here, ideas that could enhance this product, which may be of a future version of this thing. But you know, it's just flowing, isn't it?
Well, I would suggest that the dog, if it's getting very confused and is wondering a lot more, needs to obviously have to see our in-house vet for a small fee, you know, to see whether it's got some cognitive impairment.
or the counsellor.
Yeah, counsellor, dog counsellor.
You're increasing the price of my dog.
Yeah.
It's always a we.
Are you ready to go to a vote on this one?
Okay, so we're reevaluating the business with this feature.
So just for this feature, how much is it, how much extra does this feature add to the product? You know that hydration adds 10,000 VCS dollars, validating the walking service adds $73,000. Is this kind of above walking the dog validation? Or is it below the hydration, somewhere in the middle? How would you put the value of this one compared to those two?
This is stopping the dog, or this is stopping the dog doing something stupid, running into a railway line.
No, stop it, it's letting you know it could potentially do something.
Okay, but it's in a sense, you know, I think I can just about understand the dog walking service, but this one where I kind of boot the dog out the door with this thing round its neck. So there's no dog walking now. Now, in a sense, I can just limit, if I've got a garden, then I can do that. And at the end of an hour, I can say the bugger's walked up and down 150 times and great.
Yeah.
If I push it out onto the street and say, off you go, this tracker, I presume I've got some kind of thing which shows me where it is. So I'm looking at it and saying, bloody hell, it's getting close to the railway line. What do? I shock it,
Yeah.
or I run after it.
Well,
In which case, it does me a great deal of good because I know they don't speak up.
So I think what you're saying here is this feature is worthless. Put zero. If it doesn't make any sense, to you, put a zero value on it.
By the way,
But that's how this thing would be used, though, rather than so. If there was this contraption, which in some way, so the dog is walking down the road, the pavement, and I'm sitting here looking at it on my screen and saying, there's a busy road down there.
Well, you're not supposed to have let it out in the first place.
I'm gonna press a button which will somehow turn it back. Okay.
It's just an alarm, it's not
Okay, well,
an action.
So
it's even worse, isn't it?
I think it's a trigger on you, not on the dog.
yeah,
The feature as they're presenting it is purely informational, but the feedback you're giving them is information is not enough. Unless this thing is built with some kind of action capability, be it a third-party service, a buzzer, a taser, it's not worth anything.
So my question would be, if you can have a hooked IFTTT, then you can do whatever actions you want. So the question of, you know, it's information. So the initial service, I suppose, would be that, and then you can let the user decide what action you want, i.e. inform XYZ neighbours or whatever.
we do a human training service as well, added on. You know, when we find that, you know, owners want to boot a dog out the door, or, you know, or want to euthanize their dog, you know, we offer a retraining service.
It's like that's like the Apple Find My Device, where you can just. Let's have a vote on this one.
Are we reevaluating the company or just how much?
Just this one feature on its own, is it, you know, where is this one feature adding incremental value compared to the others?
So this is, I think, a bit like sprint planning, and you're proposing features that you include in a sprint cycle is, do we keep it or do we push it onto the next sprint?
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, show me. Any online bids?
Not yet.
How many cards?
10,000 or 500, 1,000.
Oh, okay.
So we've got,
I've got a justification. So, there's products that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
Where the normal level, they don't do geofencing, they decide to put on a premium, paywall, which tells me that people want it enough that they'll pay for it additionally to the product. Right, so
yeah,
I think there's a piece of value.
yeah, I could imagine this being used in combination with the dog walking service. Because you say to the dog walking service, I don't want to go there because we got a dog pregnant there last time.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. The important thing is we're getting some feedback here.
Well, I mean, the GPS will tell you where the dog's going.
Yeah.
But this is, let's say, an alarm system so that you don't have to keep checking. If you just say, I absolutely don't want it,
Yeah.
rather than you actively looking where the dog's gone, you will be notified or some action will be
Yeah.
done. If it does, it's the thing you definitely don't want to go
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
Which is quite useful, I think, for certain people. But again, I think it's going to be specialist, and those specialist examples will pay more for it. So I think it is quite valuable. For some people.
Okay, entrepreneurs, go to the story, please.
Is it my turn?
Yes, you can.
Oh, right. So, I mean, connected with the last one, we can actually, we'll have a database of the pet that you've got of all the movement. And we can link that with obviously other pets at the same time. So for instance, if you're a cat owner, you know that some cats stray quite widely. And this will be kind of linked with the last feature. So basically, you've got a complete picture of the movement history, geolocation and everything.
Why do I want that?
Well, I mean, for instance, if you're a cat owner and your cat keeps
Sorry,
bringing...
talking.
Oh, yeah, but it's for all pets, this, isn't it, this product? It wasn't just dogs. If you're a dog owner, then you might want to know where it's
Okay.
been.
Okay, yeah, you've pulled me out of the dog owning.
Yeah, so I mean, for instance, cats roam quite widely. Some cats are quite creative and steal small objects and bring them home. Yeah, some dogs wander around quite randomly as well.
There's a post recently where they tracked the cat. They found out when they took their dog for a walk, the cat would somewhat follow their path.
Yeah.
I mean, in and out,
Yeah.
which people find fascinating.
We have that.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, so we take the dog for a walk and the cat follows.
You know,
It gives up after half a mile.
the
It
cats
goes
do
back.
care. I just feel it.
So this feature is just, it's just focused on which bit is it?
What
What's
is
the
it?
scope?
It's the movement history.
Okay, so this is the basic movement system.
You've got the details that are the
Yeah.
movement of your pet over time,
Yeah.
over a week, over a day, over an hour. You can look at any movement over any time period, and also can compare it with similar animals of same. You can compare it age, sex, breed, whatever.
So the story we're looking at, movement history, this is the no GPS. This is using inertial navigation.
Hmm.
There's another story later on with GPS in it. So this is the basic, low cost, low entry.
Oh, this is without GPS.
That's what the card
apparently-
says. That's what the card says, because there's,
Oh, right, I didn't see that. I didn't have my glasses on.
because there's another one that says with GPS in
There
there.
is there?
Yeah.
I didn't find that.
How does it compete with the open source product that does the same?
Can't we do can't we do it with GPS? That sounds,
Inertial
You're-
navigation is crucially difficult.
yeah.
The story's pitch. I was just looking at the card you had in your hand.
Yeah. I don't think we've got the GPS one, have we? Have we lost that?
Yeah, I'm not.
Let's assume it's GPS.
Let's assume it's GPS.
Okay.
So But if I've got the data, as a hacker, I can hack together my own version. So how does it compete with the GPS, with the open source version people are using?
Well, how many collars do you want to stick around your door?
No, it's a software thing. So you're offering once you've got the color on, you're offering some software to draw on a nice map where my,
Yeah, on the screen.
yeah. If I've got the data and I'm a hacker, I can do the same thing. So
Well, most people aren't hackers.
yeah, but I'll make it available and start competing with it.
But in terms of that, what would be the value to that hacker rather than for somebody?
Glow,
Yeah.
a warm glow that I've written.
Yeah, and would people trust the hacking software? Because you could have all sorts of viruses. You know,
And that where would be the value model for the hacker? It's not as if it's PII they can put on the dark web and then monetize. So the value for them is a
But they're
lot.
doing it for fun, so they don't care.
In terms of the ethical fallacies, I think that's quite low down the list.
So you see here, our entrepreneurs have now found that one of our dragons actually has some technical knowledge, some security issues, which they were not really aware of, hadn't really thought through. But we've now involved that knowledge by having this conversation. So they still want to build this feature. They may look at it slightly differently. They may say they can use the open source, but at least they've got some more information on this.
Well, we'll have copyright, won't we?
Yes.
And we'll prosecute this.
No, the usual response is that you say, well, we're not going to allow people to download the data. You're going to claim proprietary rights on the data, so I can't get the data to block it.
Well, you can access the data on the screen.
So we don't need to decide the technicalities here. We've uncovered there may be an issue around the data here, but what we want to know is this a valuable feature to build? Okay. So the feature we're suggesting you build is the dog tracking component to this system. So.
Okay.
You mentioned this competitors, and I think at the beginning there's something like there's no there was, they didn't succeed or something like that. So
I didn't mention.
no, it's something mentioned on competitors at the beginning.
Well, we haven't
Yeah.
got any.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah,
It's on the brief.
They're too bulky and powerful.
Is it on the brief?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Left down.
oh, okay, fair enough.
Two bold.
I was into what he does.
Yeah, I haven't read it. Laying the wrong word. It's like school.
I got about this fest
Oh, they missed both of them, so they missed our, they missed next door as well.
Students turning up on your side.
No, don't. No, they're very bright.
Okay, you ready to go for evaluation?
Okay.
Well, this is GPS.
You pet tracking using a GPS system on the collar.
So the GPS really exists from the last feature, it's just presenting it in a dash.
So they're going to display a map on a street map, which you don't know.
Okay, and what's the monetization model? Is this all gonna be in buy it once and you get all this, or are you gonna put it under a subscription paywall? So for some of this like people find subscription.
Well, the idea, as it says here on page one,
Be a
is
feature.
the fixed price for the tracker,
Oh, yes.
and then you pay for the.
Much functionality.
Okay, that's what I mean, so which bit goes behind the nice functionality?
I don't know.
Okay. We'll just go with it, let's go.
They've yet to decide.
Yeah. I mean, we could sell all sorts of products, like
Yeah.
a nice screen to go
Yeah,
with.
so it's going to be just a simple product to start off with, and then going either in a gold, silver, bronze type breakdown, or having a per feature
So
on pence level changes.
this is a mobile, I can look at it on my phone, or is it?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, predominantly web based, but there are, we'll touch on features that you can get.
Yeah, so it'd be via an app. There'd be security on it, so it won't be easy to hack, and you can view it on a mobile, Android, iPhone, you know,
And fully security
iPad.
tested as well. So,
screen, whatever.
Should we go for evaluation this then?
Sure,
Yeah.
So are we looking at low value, like a geofencing, medium validation, or high value, like dog validation walking, dog walking validation? Too hot. Okay,
So, yeah,
ready, three, ready, Doug?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, show me.
okay, so this is just for the presentation of the data.
Oh,
Okay, 100,000, 10,000, 1,000, and 11,000.
We just presenting the data, right? So,
Any online bits?
Any on that?
No.
Yeah.
Okay, so should we call it 28,000?
well, it's at least it's been released.
Sorry,
It's going to be 43, yeah.
40,000, 40,000, sorry. Okay. Okay. What do you want to pitch them now?
So the next one is going to be for an iPhone app,
Yeah.
but I suppose it's open for other phone mobile platforms do exist. But predominantly this one's going to be for iPhone users, which is a dog health tracker based on an app. So monitoring dog vital signs, etc. So taking it just from not just temperature, but also looking at other things like pulse rate, etc. But monitoring the dog's health.
so this is not investing in more hardware. The product hardware wise is what it is.
Yeah, hardware is what it is.
Perfect.
And this will make it better utility of the data that's
So we're investing in
and
iOS developers only. Okay.
from the research and development side. Well,
Okay, so my initial thing would be, there's a lot of, let's say, existing data for human translation of let's say, device to health metrics. I suspect there's very little for various animals.
Yep.
So that I think the R&D on it might be slightly like a higher curve at the beginning,
right.
to work out what that actually means for dog,
Mhm.
and it probably getting a lot of vets involved,
Yeah.
which is high cost.
But think about the IP they're creating.
Yeah.
That'll be unique IP for them. No one else will have that IP.
If you could then, yeah, if you could own that data, that research, that might be more valuable than the product itself. But yeah, okay.
So what, if your app tells me that my dog is fine and then it drops dead and I sue you, aren't you taking on some liability here? That you're saying my dog's fine and it drops dead and now I'm gonna sue you now because I believe your app.
The view would be that it would just take the vital signs and sort of biophysical data of the dog. Don't view that there being a traffic light system.
So
at this
you're not
point.
gonna accept any liability on.
No,
So if your app says your dog's dying and I take it to the vet says it's fine, we're not gonna pay my spurious vet bill.
no.
So you're not willing to stand behind the quality of your product?
It's less to do with that. It's more the fact that it is just providing that data. For example, as we saw in the pandemic, you had asymptomatic conditions, which you couldn't then say, yes, you had an illness because you're asymptomatic. Certainly.
If a human being goes to see their GP and they get a fine medical and they drop dead on the way home,
Right.
they can't sue their GP,
Yeah, but
nor can their relatives.
but there are laws that say, there are laws around that, precedent.
Yeah, generally do no harm, but yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, we've got a waiver, like there'd be a waiver practice in that it's basically, it's generally agreed that these are guidelines we're offering.
So I get to see all these squiggly lines going up and down. But you're gonna have to interpret that for me and say, well, this is when you combine all these squiggly lines, that the dog's healthy or not healthy, or. But then my question is, well.
But again, the
you're
main
not gonna
premise
just like
of
go to a vet or don't go to a vet or.
the main premise of the product is that for the pet owners that care. So this is on the assumption that over time you're able to see your dog's exercise patterns. You're able to then combine it yourselves with the metrics that are provided through this app, been able to say, well, okay, the dog's got a high temperature and lethargic, therefore something must be wrong.
I don't
And
think
then
that's
you
so-
can share it with the vet.
Yes.
And discuss it, what needs to be done.
Okay.
It's a bit like if you have an iPhone app for monitoring your heart, you don't need, you can't sue if you bought an app for a cardiac monitor on your iPhone, you
You
can't.
can't get sued in the US.
We're not in the US.
Reason why they're starting in the European market.
Yeah, I mean, I've never heard of anyone buying an app, a health app, and then suing the manufacturers, that even in the US.
Should we move to evaluation on this one?
Yeah, there are gonna be some paranoid people out there.
Low value, 4,000 share fencing, high value, validated dog wardens, where does it fit?
Yeah,
Ready?
I'm going.
3, 2, 1, show me.
Yeah.
25, 0, 250, okay.
I mean, essentially, what you're suggesting is what Fitbit, Garmin, Apple Watches do, right?
Yeah.
Their biggest value is not just getting the data, right? Actually, one of the things Apple does is they present the data, but they don't come to good conclusions. One Fitbit is leading in that market because they can come with good connotations to it, connections to it, right? If you do that really well, and you can do sleep tracking and activity and all the different things, that is a huge market. I mean, there's proven market for that already in humans.
Yeah.
To move that to pets, people will buy it even if there's no usefulness for it, because they just love it.
Yeah, I just want to carry on that. The thing is, these models now, they link your sleep pattern. So if you don't sleep well, you automatically, it knows you'll raise your blood pressure. So it gives you a warning about, it's more important that you talk to your doctor about your sleep pattern before the blood pressure is adjusted. So it gives you some quite useful methods. And so the last one that I've got is linking just that, and that's the pet activity. So what we're doing is a movement sense of the animal itself, micro movements, so that you can assess the exercising, the sleeping and so on. So you've got a more holistic picture. So this builds on the last one, that one. So you've got a more holistic picture of what the pet's doing. So this is a bit like your iPhone app that monitors, that tells you exactly how long you've slept, how well you've slept and everything.
So I mean, so that valuation would have been for both. It's like the holistic version, so okay.
So this one's about adding even more data to that data mix. So you see, so what you're actually introducing is the concept of that feature, the value of this feature depends on the one he's just introduced. Yeah, so if we're having an engineering discussion, we'll be saying, oh, you can't build that unless you build that. But actually what we're doing is we're saying, actually, this one thinks you're really valuable. And so, you know, there may be some other things we have to build which in themselves are low value, but if they're to get us up here, so it's a high value, then we need to build them. So it's another way of looking at dependencies.
Yeah, I mean, the iPhone will give you sort of, for instance, heart rate and all sorts, you know, through your watch and other things. But really, you need to link it to your sleep pattern as well to have some proper understanding. So unless you have the two functionalities, you're not getting a good medical picture of the human or the pet or whatever. I actually don't think on the market, I don't think on the market there is anything like that for pets.
I mean, if you could put a what Garmin have is the pulse, but the sensor that does your heart rate and is high, good enough quality, and you can do HRV, variable heart rate, and then it can detect pet stress and potential for illness. And it's because this is one issue. Pet owners, pets can't talk, let's say, you don't always know if they're unwell or something. So this would be helping that understanding of pet's health, like in detail, right? So I think it's huge value. That's the 250 evaluation on that whole. So that would cover those two pictures together.
Yeah, I mean, you can, for humans, you can actually measure heart quite remotely. I just pointing at the moment at the face, you can see the heart rates, because the flush occurs with slightly redder or slightly lighter. And you can do that with on the hairless areas of pets as well, like the nose and so on.
So we're just going to value, well, let's value this one and we'll finish off with this one. So this more detailed data analytics, what kind of value do we want to put on this? Is this going to be a big value one? Is this some of this value actually on that one, or is it a low value one down here?
So I don't know how to. I already put the 250 on that one, so I don't know how to like. I can just
Put a 0 in.
add a little bit more, just to, yeah. But
Well,
it's going to be in. I'm going to have to factor that in as well.
yeah, it sounds to me as if the number you're going to bid is something smaller than the 250 you're going on this.
But that's not to me.
But you
That's,
want to go back and reduce this.
yeah, all that.
So
Yeah.
we'll talk about that a bit later, but yeah, okay, should we go for a quick valuation then? Okay, 3, 2, 1, show me. 25,000, 10,000, so that's 36, so all that 12,000.
I'm finished. It's up to you.
People with more money and spend, so they make some money on
Yeah.
Are you desperate to ask any more, or?
There's just one further feature we've got, which is this one, which is to turn the data and information that we collect from the device, and turning it social by promoting it on social media accounts, such as the pet's Facebook or Instagram account.
So you can tweet where my dog is.
Yeah. But you would have to set yourself up some aggregated thing to say, well, yes, Poochie is at Alton Towers today. But
Strava dogs.
Yeah.
Strava.
So get those dogs on. Matt, we're on holiday in Spain the other week, and my son saw a really cute dog and went across and took a photo of it. And the owner said to him, "Can you send us a photo? We'll put it on the dog's Instagram account." So it's a dog.
I mean, it tells you the world, you're fucking crazy.
Yes, but you know, why can't we make money out of those people who've gone crazy? Insanity is no part of making somebody rich. So, social media accounts for pets.
And would it be like so, you can choose which social media, or would this be like a Strava for pets, so a whole new platform? Or it's just like Hook, is it basically? You can just share.
well, we would use the existing social media platforms that are there, similar to as Palantir did for Facebook, aggregate that data up, and then publish that to particular syndicates as the owner wishes.
But this is data from the dog's point of view. Why would people be interested in data from the dog's point of view? I can see how an external person taking a picture of the dog might be interested from a human point of view, but this is data from the dog's point of view. Why are humans?
Hey, once upon a time, people
I
think
see.
140 character messages were going to be a thing. Who are we to argue with that?
Look, can I add something?
Yes,
Yeah, so people already put their cat, dog on Instagram.
Yeah,
And they say, you know, Brian the cat's done X, Y, and Z.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's from the human point of view, not the dog's point of view.
No, from the dog's point of view, you're saying this accounts specifically for the pet, right?
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, but the information is taken from the external observers.
Yeah, but people are very competitive. They might want to show how much exercise, you know, their dog, they're providing their dog. They're in the top 10%. Their dog is in the top. It's the top dog in their street, exercising, you name it, or in
It could
health
be,
or whatever. People are very competitive.
Yeah,
could
yeah.
be a precursor to-
Defo gets to the top.
Well, yeah.
If Elon Musk's dog had an account, you know, it'd be a big dog.
Well, it's in the space.
It could be something like a precursor to crafts or something like that, that's, you know, the dog. that-
Silent books.
Yes.
So, on the basis that I'm gonna evaluate on the basis that, pet insurance is quite popular. And
It reduces pet insurance,
Exactly.
less fitness.
like normal health insurance, they will reevaluate insurance based on how many steps you do, if you do 70 steps or whatever. I'm assuming the same.
Just like car insurance and that, the amount you drive.
Without theft, if I know about where your dog is, I'm gonna go and steal your dog.
Well, you got the geolocation. Did you pay for that?
Well, yeah,
Did you pay for it earlier, the geolocation?
well, yeah, because I'm in the pet theft business, I'm gonna go.
And then you'd be able to use people's Ring doorbell cameras to see who stole it.
Yeah,
Crime solved.
No, no, we went to the outside the house.
yeah. Well, you then better invest in our functionality, which comes and gets the pet back for you.
Yeah.
Okay, let's quickly do evaluation and we'll try to talk about some of the lessons from here. So choose a card. Is pets on social media worthless way down here, or is it one of the big ticket items?
Well, it's not pets on social media, it's the health and functionality in the data.
Okay.
You know, like walking out.
Choose a card. Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1, show it. Okay. 25, 5, so 55 divided by 3 sounds like that's 90.
So I would say as a business valuation, I don't see it as like a massive thing, but as an influencer's ability to get money from that, I think is huge. Because
Yeah,
content creators,
yeah,
they make so much money, it's ridiculous.
yeah.
And that's all they need.
Yeah.
But that's slightly different when
You've got a small percentage of people that travel for free around the world continually. Because they're continually photographing the locations, what they're wearing, and they get all their free gifts like clothing, travel, stays in hotel, because they're pushing one brand after another continually.
So for a content creator, to not have that feature would make them go to a competitor or something. But if they had that feature, then that was.
Small market there.
But the very revenue stream wouldn't go to you as a company, it would go directly from the social media to them. But it might allow them by itself, yeah.
So let's think about what we've done here and just that conversation we're just having, you know. People sometimes say to me, who should you play this game with? And the obvious people to play this game with are with the execs in your company, the actual investors, the people you're asking to actually fund this. But actually, the conversation we're just having shows that this is really valuable to have just with the engineers who are going to build it, the other people on the team, because you're by talking about it, and instead of this adversarial situation where there's no stupid questions, you can say something like silly, like stupid. You're getting a much better understanding of what we're building, and they're actually getting a better understanding of what they're building. So you're building this shared collective understanding. So even if you're not investing real money on this, because you've had this conversation, you've put so much more understanding, you've put so much more flesh on the bones here. So you know when you're off building this thing, you've got a better idea of what you're trying to achieve here. So the obvious thing we've got here is we've got a prioritized list. We obviously, you know, but we can see, we think the money, the big money is in the pet health tracking bit. Now there was some dissent there, and that's something we should talk about some more and inquire into. We might want to do some validation there. But it looks like the big money is around pet health, dog validation, geofencing, hydro, all of this down here, low value, that's going to be down the queue. We see this is far more valuable than any of that. So in terms of our priorities, you know where to go, and we've had that conversation. So often you see, you know, you look at almost any product backlog you can mention, there may be ethic values on there, ethic scores, but nobody puts value scores on there. Whereas here, you've got like this isn't a priority you have to work to, but you've got an idea of where the money is. the obvious prioritizations go straight down. But as we were saying before, maybe there's some engineering dependency in there. You say, look, this thing here, although it's low value, we need to do it first of all. So we can pull out that conversation and both sides can appreciate that a low value thing needs to be done first, or they say, you know, don't care that that's no value, do the minimum of that to get the high value thing working. We can have those conversations. We don't need to productize hydration. We just need a good enough hydration to get the pet health working. So you can have conversations like that.
So, yes, Alan, so very early on in the agile development, we're going back 20 years, came planning poker.
Yeah.
And this was more that you ignore the extremes and you just go with a panel of, you're developing stuff, and you've got a panel of people, and you take the, if you like, the modal figure, the most frequently occurring figure, whereas this, is this your own take on planning?
So how you actually turn,
Is this your own development?
yeah, how you take to the values that have been voted over here, how you move them from 3 different values to 1 value, you decide. Yeah, so in classic planning poker, you know, when we're doing effort, you know, I get the person who voted low to argue their case, the person who voted high to argue their case, and then we re-vote. And then I would average. I know teams that vote and vote and vote again until they come to some agreement. I know teams that think, how can you possibly put 10 on that? You can't possibly mean that they're getting back in. Yeah, and it'll harangue somebody into changing their vote.
Well,
And I'm not doing this, I'll go raise an eyebrow and go, can't possibly want to work here much longer. Yeah, how you combine those really mean, mode, median,
Yeah.
whether you stick to fib or not, they're all over the place. Do it your own way, and the same time poker.
Yeah.
Yeah, choose. So I was just for the sake of simplicity today, I was doing a quick top of my head average of those scores. There's other things we could do that, but the numbers are not so important as the fact that you can see that one is way ahead and that one is way down there. We had a couple of votes go in there with 0 scores on. And I've seen that happen in real life. I remember very vividly one of the first times I played this with a live client. We're at a law firm. And the product owner, or product manager, had divided the entire backlog into 4 envelopes. Must have, should have, could have, and whatever W was that day. Well, 1. Some people say won't have, some people say would like to have, some people say. Anyway, this proves how pointless Moscow rules are. You ever known a Russian play by the rules? So I'm married to one, don't we? So the product manager only took the must have envelope to the client's offices. And there was like 50 stories in there. And we went through them all. And there was like 3 or 4 stories where the client said 0. The product manager thought these were must have features. But when the client was asked to put a value on them, they voted them 0. They said, we don't want it. It has no value to us. The product manager may think it's valuable to another client, sure, but to this client who's going to be the first customer of the product, no value. So why build it? Until that moment, it was a must-have feature. On the other hand, there was one story which was way above all the others. It literally was $1 million story. It was to print checks with the law firm's logo on it. And this was only like 5 or 6 years ago, when checks weren't that common, you know, even then. But it was a big thing for the marketing department in the law firm to be able to have their logo on the check. I've had that confirmed by other people. That is a thing with law firms. But again, the product manager, although she picked up as important, she had no idea this was the killer feature. And so we did this exercise about 50 stories with a real client. And, you know, it completely changed the way we process the backlog. Because we're thinking about where is the value and what does the client put the value at?
What do you do
what do you do if the team or the dragon, they don't agree about anything?
Well,
They didn't agree about anything tonight.
well, for starters, that's information, isn't it? You can see you've got vastly different markets. And maybe what we should be saying is, actually, we're going to rule out one type of investor or one type of market. We're going to say we're not going after the US market because the US investors aren't seeing the value, and we should focus over here. Maybe there's really two products here. Or, you know, what I normally do, I normally average it out, but but I think it shows you a big issue.
Yes, we have a comment online from
Yep.
Paul on the value question. Surely we need to know how complex the feature is to build. For example, if it's scientifically very hard to test hydration level, because priority needs to be based on cost of delay, which he puts in brackets, value plus time criticality plus opportunity, divided by effort to build, WSJF, makes sense?
So weighted shortage job first.
Yeah, you can't have a prioritized list on value alone.
Right, exactly right. But, how many people put a value on their stories?
Oh, they do everything else but the value.
Yes. If you're going to do weighted shortest job first, you need to get a value. So the question becomes, which value do you put on first? Do you put the effort value on, or do you put the business value on? Forgive me if I'm wrong here, but every business book, every agile book, every software book I've ever written says prioritize on business value. I think the business value has to come first. And I fundamentally believe that if you go to a business person, we've estimated this at being 100. They'll say, oh, the value is 110. If you put an effort value on something, you will anchor the value statement. Most businesses today prioritize by effort more than value because they simply don't know the value. So the first step to weighted shortest job first is to get a value statement. I would also wager that we just spent the last hour putting value statements on all of these. We've already identified some which may have some technical difficulty in. So let me suggest putting a value statement, an initial starting point, an initial value estimate. It's actually quite quick and cheap in its own right. So I can see all the reasons for doing the value first. And then you start looking at the high value ones and say, maybe we should do some complexity calculations. Maybe we should do some effort calculations. Because the other thing I know is when we get into those effort calculations and complexity, we lose track of the value. And there's always more engineers on a team than there are customers. So what we're trying to all do is for a moment think like a customer. We're trying to say, let's assume that, you know, ChatGPT can do this. We can assume the technology, let's try and think about the value. We never have a problem thinking about the effort and the complexity, but we repeatedly don't have a value. So the other interesting thing there, in the weighted shortest job first, is that we've introduced the concept of time and cost of delay, because we can take a car, so I take like pet health tracking, 140,000 value on him. We've assumed that's 140,000 today. But we could say, look, if we launch this tomorrow, it's worth 140,000. If we launch it in 6 months, it's still worth 140,000. If we launch in a year, it's still worth 140,000. If it is, we might as well delay doing it because it's worth the same whenever. If, however, we say, look, if we launch in 6 months, it's only worth 70,000. If we launch in a year, it's worth 20,000. We can start to have those cost of delay conversations. Because in my opinion, cost of delay is just an abstract topic. Most people can't comprehend it unless you put a number on it and start saying, how does the number change?
With that, which was a factoring risk of competitor coming in and doing that.
Yeah, you can certainly do that. You know,
The more you delay it, the more chances are, and then that will just value the.
yes, yeah. And maybe you already know that Google are going to enter the market in 6 months. So you know you've got to get first mover advantage in 6 months. Doesn't matter whether it's next month or the month after, but as long as it's in 6 months, like if you're building a product for Christmas, you know what Christmas is. So it may not be a steady decline, it may be sharp, but again, once you've got the value on there, it's a lot easier to talk about how does this value change? Is there a question there?
Yeah. Should we consider the dependency of a high priority features on others?
High priority feature on others, dependencies.
Yeah.
Show me the money. If somebody wants your feature, then they should turn up in the meeting and argue for that case. You know, if someone's going to wander along to you and say, I really want this feature, it's worth a lot to me, and they don't bother turning up to your meeting, they voted with their 2 feet. Yeah, so let's have the conversation. And so yeah, look, what we've done is we've turned this into a dynamic conversation. We've moved away from saying, look, here's the business requirements document, or just here's the business case even, here's the backlog. We've made this a live conversation. You could go as far as to call it wargaming. And yeah, I think anybody who calls themselves a product manager, and probably anyone who calls themselves a product owner, should be able to, in a Dragon's Den situation, argue for their feature, argue for their product. Business cases are too dry, and the real world doesn't happen with logic like that.
I think it adds real value, your take on it, because quite often planning focuses just on the technical issues.
Yes.
And I think what you're doing is explicitly prioritising the business value, and I think it's a good take on it.
Yeah, and we're also letting everybody have a say, so that people, even if they disagree, we've respected their opinion. The other thing that comes out is for any problem, there are multiple solutions. I have another exercise I do, where I put a user story on screen that says, I want an online shop. And I divide the room into teams and say to them, you are competing for the contract to build this online shop. Teams go away and in 20 minutes come back and tell me how much money you want to build this and how long it's going to take. Okay? And I will award the contract to the one who bids, you know, and they go away. 20 minutes later, they come back in. So I hand them out as sheets with some more details on, so they've got some clarity. 20 minutes later, they come back, and the teams on the right, without fail, want $1 million. They want 6 months, they want a year, one case even wanted 3 years. And while the teams on the right are reading out their answers, and they're all pretty much the same ballpark, the teams on the left are giggling and laughing. I turn to the teams on the left, and they want $10,000 and they'll do it in 2 weeks. Or they want $5,000 and they'll do it this afternoon. The teams on the right have assumed there's $1 million on the table. They're going to build a fully functional online shop from scratch. The teams on the left, they're either going to install WordPress with a shop plugin, or they're going to put you on Amazon or Etsy or something. Both sets of teams have come up with a valid solution to the problem as stated. But the extra information they have, the $1 million teams have been told the client's a multinational and has got $1.2 million to spend on this, and they've got some big revenue forecasts. And the teams on the left says, I'm an artisan widget maker, I want to quit my day job. If my accountant tells me I can get a website for $5,000, if I can make $100,000 a year, I can live my dream. Yeah, so if you know that $140,000 like this one, of course you can go and build a fully functional, all-rounded solution. If you know there's $4,000 like this one on the table, then you need a good enough solution. It doesn't need to be the gold-plated, all singing, all dancing solution. But we now see where we should be investing our energy, where we should be investing our thinking. I'm also a great believer that if you know the value, you can come up with different estimates. Yeah, we tend to treat our stories, our feature requests, as if there is a right answer. this thing will take a month to build, end of story. Maybe somebody will say, well, there's a quick and dirty solution I can do in 2 weeks. Remember that quick and dirty actually is slow and dirty, because it always comes back and bites you. It's just you don't know when it's going to come back and bite you. If you're unlucky, it comes back and bites you before you get it out the door. If you're really unlucky, it comes back just after you put it out the door. Yeah. But those conversations happen, you know, in the outside as these two binary things. If we talk about how much value is there, we can have a more intelligent conversation about how much are we investing here, what kind of solution we're going for, where's it going to overlap, where might it be reused, etc., etc. Yeah.
One comment here, someone was leaving, say, send me to agree, we need to talk about value more. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to think in the future that before we put any effort estimate, story points, hours, whatever it is on the card, we put a value estimate. I would love, I'm sure Derek would love to this, to get the data and then try and see where the two correspond at all. We talk about quick wins all the time, but no one tries to quantify, you know, or biggest bang for the buck. We don't quantify it. The other thing that happens here is developers feel really put upon for estimates. So some developers really don't want to do it. I understand why, and I used to hate doing it and all the rest of it. I've had business people say to me when we've done this, oh my God, I understand where they're coming from now. I have this tiny piece of information and you're expecting me to put this number on it. And I now realize how much I don't know. And just better flip it over and make people appreciate the complexity we put on people when we say, give me a number around that.
You feeling all through?
We should probably wrap up actually. Let's steal the food. We've been here for a while. So, okay.
Thank you very much. That is very, very interesting. I didn't know anything about it before. But I found it really, really useful. It opened new ideas to me. I appreciate people who were taking part in it. Thank you very much.
And a thank you too from all
Especially for the entrepreneurs and the dragons.
So here, another one, we also have a thank you from Paul on the line.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah.
I'm impressed they stayed till the end. I thought.
We had a few dropouts, but that's okay. One person from South Carolina had a productivity issue. And but otherwise, yeah, they stayed.
Well, I'm looking forward for the next.